I am very late to the party in covering this four-way debate, but the clips that I saw on Twitter were, I don't want to use the word promising. That's certainly not the word we want to use. No, that's not the word to be used here. No, disheartening. Disheartening. Those are the words. Those are the words we got to use for this. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this four-way debate and see what we can glean from it. I don't like anybody in this picture.
How do you describe yourself politically?
Okay, so I am...
We're going to have to turn up the volume on that. There's certainly a volume adjustment that needs to be had here. Come here. Where are you? Opera! Come on.
I'm socially conservative. I've always been economically populist. Economic populism is the future of our party. However, preserving social conservatism within the Republican Party is a real passion of mine. I'm very pro-family. I'm very pro-life. My whole motto is I just like to win and save babies. So that's what I do.
You like to win and save babies. That's a little cringe. Not gonna lie. Like, not that saving babies is cringe, but it's the extent that pro-lifers will go to be like, no, I love babies. And then, you know, when they talk about policies to actually help people after they're born, fuck them all, I guess.
Awesome. Blaire, go ahead and tell us where you lean politically.
Yeah, every political quiz I've ever taken matches center right, so that's me. I don't have sort of the popular story everyone loves of like, I'm a former liberal, I'm a lifelong Republican, always voted that way. And yeah, that's me. I'm definitely a little bit less socially conservative, and that's where I land.
John, go ahead.
It's a pretty clear copy-paste between Lauren and myself, I think. Fiscally populist and socially conservative.
Carlin, are you different than them?
Yeah, I'm a little bit different in that, some people say I'm a former liberal. I'm actually a current liberal. I have never stopped being a liberal, even though I did leave the Democratic Party. I politically, on my political compass test, I tend to be right in the center, and I frankly just want common sense people to come up with common sense solutions.
Awesome. So as we get into this, I want to let you know something important. This is the first question we're going to jump into, which is, what is the future of the right wing, right? If we're going to win a war, if we're going to fight the left, we've got to figure out who's on our side. And there's a split of trying to figure out if the future of the right is a conservative, moral Christian party that is a strong nationalist background, or if it's this big tent party full of liberals, libertarians, disaffected left, etc. Before we jump into that, I want to give you...
So I'm going to go ahead and say right now, for any political movement at all, you need to be a big tent. You have to be. You will inevitably end up working with people you do not like, and that is perfectly normal. As long as the people are able to have some shared values, and you can work towards a common goal, that's what you're going to have to do in your politics. You're going to have to. There are very, very gatekeepy people in all sides of politics, and I don't like that gatekeeping. I can point out when I've got individual issues with like a liberal, for instance, but I will still side with a liberal if I need to, because we are going to be having issues moving forward if we don't. If I, as a creator, and I'm trying to do politics, am going to try to affect any kind of change in the world, we don't affect change by isolating ourselves to where nobody wants to hear our message except people who already agree with us. So, I'm going to go and give it right now. I know that there's some really uncomfortable stuff in this debate, in this discussion. So, I'm just going to go ahead and give everybody the warning that there are going to be some uncomfortable things said. A lot of them having to do with trans issues, LGBTQ issues, etc. So, let's go ahead and have that as something we know going forward. And let's begin now that everybody's laid out their positions.
A huge shout out to our sponsor for today, guys. The world is getting crazy.
No, we're not. No, I don't care.
Is this?
I would use those for my Nerf guns, but I really don't care about your sponsorship, okay? The only sponsorship that matters here is ddlgplayground.com. If you are watching this, please go to ddlgplayground.com, use coupon code Suris. You'll get 10% off of anything there. Yeah, there's my sponsorship. I am not anywhere near as creative with that as normal. That's fine, though. Let's go ahead and play the thing that makes me want to die.
As we look to take back the country from the radical left and we seek to make it a stronger place, how are we going to do that? Is it A, by building a stronger, conservative, Christian moral party, or is it B, building a big tent party of libertarians, the disaffected left, conservatives, etc.? Like with the questions, we'll try to go in the same order. We'll start with Lauren.
Yeah, so I'm really confused why this is a discussion about the future of the right when we have a liberal, actually she's a Democrat, with one good opinion.
Wait. She literally said she's not a Democrat anymore. Did you not hear that? Did you not hear that?
We also have a transgender on here. I don't really think we should be giving a platform to this kind of degeneracy, which is a gateway drug to pedophilia. I absolutely disagree.
Look at the faces of everybody in this room right now. John Doyle is cracking a smile. He's hearing the thing that makes his dick rock hard. Then you've got, up here, she is biting her tongue. Not super happy. And Blaire is just accepting. This is a weird thing that happens with a lot of people, like Blaire White, Dave Rubin, etc. These I left the left types, or granted, Blaire says he was always a Republican, but these people who exist in a space that progressive areas have fought for years, and people like those who currently exist in the Republican Party have not. It's really weird to me to watch them just sit here in a room and take a beating and just accept it. It's what they have to do for their job. It's what they have to do to function on YouTube. I almost feel bad. I wouldn't feel bad if it wasn't for the fact that Blaire White has been profiting off of this for years. But I want to feel bad. I really do.
Agree. We were the party of traditional marriage. We were the party that opposed gay marriage. We've always been that party. We've always been the party of family. We won handedly in 2016 without the LGBTQ vote. We started losing when we started compromising. So I'm really curious why people who are libertarians, you have a party of freaks who love the free market that you can join. But don't come into our party and try to influence it, because that is how we are losing. And in case you haven't noticed, we are losing. They are.
Have you ever considered that maybe people like you are the reason your party's losing? Has that not occurred to you?
Are now advocating for chemical castrations for children. We're spotlighting transgenderism.
We have not. Nobody's advocated for chemical castrations for children. What she's referring to is the advocacy for puberty blockers being used on children, which, mind you, do not sterilize. There's a chance of sterilization. They do not sterilize on their own, just in a vacuum. Aha, you got puberty blockers, suddenly you're sterile. No, it's a side effect that can happen, just like every medication on the planet has side effects. There are very few medications on this planet that do not have some kind of side effect that you have to deal with. This is not the same thing as a chemical castration, but she never said they were the party of honesty.
I'm at CPAC, and I am a traditional Christian conservative. I believe in family. I believe that
but not gay families, but not trans families, but not... You believe in white blonde families. That's you.
Family is the foundation of everything that this country was founded on. And no, I do not believe that we should be compromising our values and spotlighting a lifestyle that is a gateway drug to pedophilia
Now, here's the thing she doesn't do. She does not at any point explain why being transgender is a gateway drug to pedophilia, why being homosexual is a gateway drug to pedophilia. She doesn't do any of that. She just states it.
every single time, and you cannot deny it isn't.
You can deny it isn't. You haven't cited shit though.
Because it's here.
So nobody was surprised about that apparently. Let's see if anybody challenges it.
Blaire, would you respond?
I think that there's a difference between, you spoke sort of to gender ideology, which is definitely rampant on college campuses, definitely taking over culture. I think that's different than just people who, as individuals, may technically be gay, lesbian, bisexual, any of the above. And I think that it's possible to fight against gender ideology while holding true that there are going to be people that are just different in life. I definitely am not here to speak to the future of social conservatism because that's just not my lane. But as far as the party, I think that a big tent is most likely the future. I think that knowing my generation and a lot of people my age, which is mid-20s and Gen Z a little younger, I think that they voted for Trump the first and second time, or just the second time, because Trump kind of ushered the party into an era of a little more secularism. I don't think.
Wait, wait, Blaire, what? No. Trump played the fiddle of the evangelical vote. How did Trump usher in an era of secularism in the party? Outside of the fact that there are a bunch of edgy atheist dick snots that look at Trump and go, oh yeah, I like that he sticks it to the libs. That's as far as he went in ushering in secularism. But functionally, throughout the history of his entire campaign, he played the fiddle of the evangelical right.
I think he was overtly religious. I think to an extent he was a little performative with religion and with.
We agree, because he's a politician. Everybody says he's not a politician, but he literally did the politician things.
With prayer and things like that. And I think that attracted a lot of new voters. And I'm not sure that, going full force religious social conservatism is really the future.
John, can you respond?
Yeah, I think that
she didn't respond to any of the shit that she actually said. Blaire didn't respond to anything that she actually said. She didn't respond to the degeneracy claim. She didn't respond to the gateway to pedophilia. She just accepted that and just went in. Just went in on her own tangent. Why? Why would you not respond to that? And now we have Shade Eating Grin here to respond as well.
Concept of a big tent movement is basically this sort of intra-party democracy that prevents us ultimately from being effective at actually wielding power. And this could date back.
Oh boy! I like fascist rhetoric. It's my favorite. Like, okay. This inter-party democracy that prevents us from wielding power effectively. I just want to let that line simmer for a second. And now we will continue.
Back even to what's referred to as the Reagan Coalition, where we tried to unite social conservatives with libertarians, with fiscal conservatives, and then we created something which ultimately didn't last in effect, where we're now on the back foot with things such as gender identity. And even now we're trying it, with pandering to different minority groups, different interest groups, which will never give us more than 8% of the vote, for example. So I think that to actually try something different would be to legitimately establish a...
So let's pick apart what he just said there for a second before he continues. His argument is that they shouldn't be pandering to minority groups because they will only ultimately end up being about 8% of the vote. This is hyper-utilitarian thinking that basically means, in the end, you will be getting the votes and appealing only to white people. People who have the majority in the populace. If you're a minority, this man says fuck you.
A strong party with the values that we're nominally in support of and actually wielding the power effectively when we are given the chance, instead of getting into power and then doing nothing and trying to pander to these groups thinking that we're going to own the libs and take their voting base away from them.
Yeah, Carlin, I'm interested to hear your perspective, because obviously this would be a question that would pertain to you directly, since you admit that you're a liberal and you
admit that you're a liberal. Jesus Christ.
registered as a Republican. I mean, give us your thoughts.
Good. I did. Well, the fact of the matter is that MAGA is not a religious movement. MAGA is a political movement. And in order to win elections, you have to win votes. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump has never cared about gay marriage. It was never something that he was against. Dude hung out at Studio 54. Why would he care? And so I'm on the side of winning too, Lauren. I'm on the side of winning elections. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump created a Big Tent strategy that brought 10 million more people to him in 2020 than he did in 2016. And if we go back and look at the history of the Republican Party and when they lost the culture war the first time, Ronald Reagan offered a big tent. He said, everyone is welcome in this big tent. He won 2 terms. George H.W. Bush followed him. The Republicans were in control for 12 years until what happened? The moral majorities tried to swoop right in and started legislating Christianity. And that is when they lost the culture war. That is when they started losing voters, when they started trying to legislate their religion the first time around. The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or they're prohibiting the free exercise of thereof. So it protects your right to practice your religion as much as it protects my right to practice mine. This is not a question of religion. If you want to do whatever you want to do in church, that's fine. Go talk to your church elders, go talk to your deacons, exclude anyone you want from your church. But the fact of the matter is that I would really like if the Democrats didn't control everything. And in order for that to happen, we need to win. And that means building the broadest possible coalition of voters that we can. And that's what I think we should do.
Lauren, that's pretty much opposite of what you brought up and what you were saying. Could you...
Right, because one of you is thinking pragmatically and the other one of you is thinking like a Nazi. You can decide which one.
Could you please respond to that?
Yeah, so, Donald Trump, he did do things that made the church have to make excuses for him. His Globo Homo initiative ended
fucking Blaze Media.
up losing him a significant amount of the Christian vote. And we are the base of this party. We make up a huge portion of this party, a way bigger portion than the libertarian sector of the party, no matter how much they want to tell you.
So I got a question. Now granted, this is a bit of an argument about populum, but argument about populum is not a bad strategy or even really that fallacious if you're dealing with how to get a political win. I want to know from you guys, the audience, when Donald Trump was running, both times, did you ever hear an evangelical person say they did not want to vote for Trump because he supported gays? Because I never heard it. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying that there wasn't some big pastor who did that. But practically every evangelical pastor, every Christian pastor that I saw, if they said Donald Trump was acting non-Christian, it was because he wasn't being loving. It was because he wasn't being, a good representative for Christ. I never heard one of them go, no, he said gay is okay, so we're not going to vote for him. I never saw it. I'm not saying it didn't happen. But I don't think, whether it was from social media posts, whether it was from conversations had in and around my area in fucking northern Georgia, nowhere did I see this rhetoric of Trump appealed to the gays and that's why he's bad. No. He was the second coming of Christ for like every evangelical down here. But okay, sure, Lauren, continue. Blaze Media, everybody.
So him making those compromises is probably a big part of why we lost. We lost the House in 2018. In 2017.
The audio quality has turned her into Legion. She is the Borg now.
We had the House, the executive branch, and the Senate, and we still failed on conservative issues. They refused to stand up for life. They still passed a budget that actually made us forced Christian taxpayers to fund Planned Parenthood. So every vote lost.
Because Planned Parenthood does more than just abortions, but you guys don't talk about that. There's more good that Planned Parenthood does over and above allowing affordable abortions. But again, you guys don't talk about that.
On social conservatism is, we are significantly more. We are the party that was established in traditional marriage. So I'm curious when the liberals and the transgenders decided that it was their duty to come and infiltrate our party to make it successful. Because
Infiltrating your party. Look, you guys have politicians who you want to win. They had politicians they want to win. So they registered as Republican. That's not infiltrating your party. Your party may be having a bit of a cultural shift, but that happens all the time. Literally, all the fucking time. However, most trans people end up voting Democrat here in the United States. Not Republican, because Republicans generally don't stand for their values, unless, of course, you are somebody like Blaire.
Because we were doing just fine. We started actually losing votes when we started pandering. We lost a significant amount of our base, enough to make an effect and make a dent into the electorate by compromising our values.
You didn't lose your base in the Republican Party because you compromised your values. You lost your base in the Republican Party because your values were exposed properly. There's a difference.
The only way forward is to stay true to our values that we've always been and established on and win with them. You know, it's the weakness. People value strength over anything else. And when we started showing weakness and compromise, that's when we started losing.
Compromise is not weakness. Compromise is pragmatism. It's practicality. It's a thing that maybe, if you're going to be a political speaker, if you're going to be somebody who talks about politics on the internet, maybe it's a good idea to understand that when you want to get something done, compromise is literally necessary. It's not weakness to compromise when the alternative is failure. You can either have abject failure or you can get some of the things you want via compromise. And in most cases, getting some of the things you want is better than abject failure. So, this just sounds like propaganda, but on a debate stage.
And I don't think that is something that we should continue. I think that we should remain the party of Jesus Christ, the party of life, the party that celebrates family and makes it as easy as possible for Americans to get married and have children. Why would I celebrate a lifestyle that people can't reproduce? You know, you can't reproduce. You just can't.
Wait, trans people can't reproduce? Trans people can definitely reproduce. It may be harder in some cases, but they definitely can. If Blaire wanted to get herself a girlfriend, they likely could reproduce. I don't know the specifics on, how fertile Blaire is. I don't care. That's not my business. But it is a thing that can be done. Moreover, gay people can reproduce. For instance, if you are gay, you are a gay man, and you are dating a trans man, you still have the ability to reproduce. Another point, we have things like in vitro fertilization that's being done. Like we have technology going forward where you don't just need traditional boinking to make a baby. There are other options. But I think this Lauren is showing us a perfect example of what it's like to be stuck in the past.
So having families, that is the future of the party. We started losing when we started compromising. Big Tent is a lie.
Lauren, let me jump in there real fast.
Big Tent is a lie. This girl's literally on a propaganda script.
And give Blaire a chance to respond to that.
Sure.
I think the concept of more people infiltrating a party isn't necessarily what has happened. I think that the modern left has shown its hand to such an extent that people are just being extremely turned off by it. Again, being a lifelong Republican voter, I've never had a moment where I entered the party and then had plans to change it from within. I think that every American has a right to vote in any direction that they choose. And I think especially over the next 4 years of the Biden presidency, there's probably going to be a lot more people who are red-pilled, I guess is going to be the term, and wanting to vote, in the opposite direction of how things ended up in November. And I also would say, Trump got the most votes of any sitting president in history. I think that's true, right? That's right. And I think there's a reason for that. I think what I spoke to earlier was the push towards more secularism. And I think that while social conservatives and religious conservatives still voted Trump because it was the right direction, and like you said, they did make a lot of excuses and compromises on their beliefs, I think Trump really, and Trumpism is the future of the party and the future of success.
Trumpism is the future of success? Oh, no. Yeah, you got a lot of votes, but you made more enemies than you did friends on the way, and that's why Biden won. I don't know if that's actually going to be the way to success. If Blaire really thinks that more people like Donald Trump are the future of her party, then it's no wonder why I'm gonna end up making more videos on Blaire. Freaking Trumpism should not be the future of any party. The cult-like mentality required for that, where you have like the Jan Fuhrer, God Emperor, dictator guy. That ideal should not be sought in American politics. We're a democracy. We're not supposed to be going for, let's call it what it is, fascism. We're not supposed to be going for that. We're supposed to be against that. We're Americans, but apparently that's not something that matters. Not to Blaire.
I'm also one of those people that, I don't know, this might have to be edited out for YouTube, but I'm not completely convinced that the election was won by Biden by completely.
Ah, yay! We got a big lie coming up. We got the voters. We got to pander. We have to do our pandering to the. Biden stole the election. People, we got to do that. We have to pander to it. Otherwise, missed opportunity. Giant missed marketing opportunity if we don't do that.
Legitimate means.
So we can say it was borrowed.
I think what?
We can say it was borrowed. You can't say stolen, but you can say the election was borrowed.
Borrow. Oh, yeah.
And so even though, Biden won, I still think Trump is the future of the right in general. So.
Okay, John, why don't you jump in there?
I think that's correct in that Trump is the future of the Republican Party. But what's interesting about that is that during his first campaign and even his second campaign, he really didn't touch on LGBT issues that much. I mean, he held up the flag, I think, at a few events at the advice probably of people like Jared Kushner. But if you look at where his voters actually sit on the political spectrum, they're not the right-wing libertarians that a lot of big donors would like the party to be. They're actually basically authoritarian in the center. And so if you look at where they poll on issues such as like gay marriage versus traditional marriage, or like transgender bathroom issues, like whatever, they're all like very I guess you'd say authoritative and conservative in that, and that they're in support of traditional and socially conservative policies. And so that's where the momentum in the party is. And so if you're going to come over and vote for Republicans because you agree with their positions on foreign policy or fiscal policy or what have you, that's all and fine. But what we can't do is start to compromise and say that like you can come over here and we're actually going to pander to you as well and give you positions at CPAC. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people that are trying to join the Republican Party or the conservative movement and then bring to light more of these like LGBT issues are basically showing their hand in that they're not actually conservative. And I'm not speaking about you guys specifically, just like the rhetoric that I deal with online, because fundamentally the idea of like LGBT issues is about the enshrinement of total equality, which is fundamentally not a conservative idea. Conservatives believe in hierarchy and natural law, and the idea that we can have total equality across the board for different types of relationships or different types of marriages, quote unquote, is just fundamentally not a conservative idea.
Oh, I didn't even realize that the audio was gone. Okay, so I'm just gonna say, this is very refreshing. This is basically John Doyle, no mask, no nothing, and it's I hate the things that are coming out of his mouth, but I'm glad that I'm hearing them instead of having to dissect them out of something. It's very mask off. It's very... Let's tell it like what it is. Basically, he's saying that it's all fine and dandy for him to use LGBT people for their votes, but when it comes down to matters of democracy, he does not believe that they matter. Does not believe that the LGBTQ people that are in the party, he doesn't want to... He says it's not capitulating to them. To me, it reads as, no, they don't matter. They're not going to care about their individual issues. They're going to deal with, standard white conservatism, and that's basically it. But I don't know. There's a part of me that I hate every word coming out of his mouth because it just makes me very mad. But there's another part of me that, like, listening to this, it is nice to know that if this is the person who's going to represent the Republican Party, we don't have to make the argument that they are anti-LGBT. We don't have to do that. They did it for us.
And so if we want to have success in the future as a party, we have to actually maintain a strong footing on what it actually means to be conservative, which we haven't done in the last 70 years, I'd say.
Yeah, so I want to kind of tweak this a little bit to you, Carlin, as that question that he said, right, is like, this is the question a lot of people ask on the traditional right, is that the right has been defined as being a conservative party, and that has been traditionally what it has been. Now, you say that you identify as a liberal, but you are a Republican. I would say that's more of a new development in the party. I'd say that it is, related to Trumpism, to MAGA, or as Lauren calls it, the Globo Homo movement, which I will spit out my coffee.
You've never heard that? Not once have you heard? Okay, obviously this dude hasn't been paying attention to people like Nick Fuentes.
When she said that, I find all this stuff quite hilarious sometimes. But with that being said, if we're going to take the big tent party approach, right, and we're going to bring in all of these people that are of different viewpoints like yourself, what is this conservative party conserving, and how is it any different than, let's just say, being a liberal party from 10 years ago?
Well, right now, it's not conserving anything because they don't have any power because they lost elections. But I do want to speak to John's point specifically in that he used the magic word, which is pandering. The left panders to the LGBT movement. Trump did advocate for LGBT policies. He did so by appointing the first openly gay member of the cabinet, which the left likes to forget about all the time.
No, you dummy. Having someone... Okay, maybe Blaire is a wonderful example of this. Having someone who is gay in your cabinet does not mean your cabinet's going to do jack shit for gay issues. Just like having Blaire White exist as a trans person does not mean that she is going to advocate for positive changes on trans issues. Pandering is simple. It's like, okay, pandering is when you merely grab somebody who is gay and put them in your cabinet because it will look good. That's pandering. You're pandering to LGBTQ people because you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm just going to go ahead and do an affirmative action thing. Bring a gay person in. That's going to be good. No, that is pandering. But apparently, to her, no, that is directly trying to tackle issues where gay people are concerned. And I will say, yes, having diverse representation in politics is good, but it is not the end-all, be-all. You need to have diverse representation so that you can have more people with more perspectives to bring those to the table, but at the same time, the people who come and bring their perspectives to the table need to be able to actually do something with that to help the groups that they're supposed to represent. Imagine if the gay person was somebody like Milo Yiannopoulos. Oh, I'm sorry, ex-gay. Do you think he's gonna fight for gay rights? No. He's gonna start a fucking conversion therapy clinic. I'm gonna let her finish her point before we finish things out. We're not gonna listen to the entirety of the debate. We are gonna listen to the rest of her point, though.
He did support this community. He just didn't do it in a way that was pandering. But
no, he did it in a way that was only pandering.
Again, I'm a liberal because I believe in individual liberty, individual freedom. I'm very concerned with preserving specifically our First Amendment values and all of the amendments specifically, but the First Amendment's really my jam, which again, does not allow for the state to legislate based on one religion's specific values. But if we want to talk about religion, we can talk about a verse from the Bible, which is 1 Timothy 2, verses 1 through 2, which says,
1 Timothy, not 1 Timothy, but okay.
I urge then, first of all, the petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and for those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. And I bring that up because that is the only place in the New Testament that really touches on the relationship of Christians to government. And what does it say? It says they should pray for the people in leadership so that they may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. So what does that mean? It means that we should be working on electing a government that allows people to practice whatever religion they want and to live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. And the only way that we can do that is by creating a broad coalition of voters who win elections. That's what we should be talking about first and foremost, is how we win elections.
Before we go, I'm going to go to John, because John was...
So I do at least agree with that. Now, do I want Republicans to win shit in American politics? No, I don't. In fact, actually, if the entire party just disintegrated tomorrow and every single one of them were left as a disenfranchised voter, I'd be fine. Welcome to my position, bitches. But, at the same time, if you are trying to win an election, there is one person in this conversation that is currently engaging in a pragmatic approach to winning election, that is trying to enshrine more voters in instead of cancel other people out. And that's Carolyn. I don't like her. I don't. But I do have to admit, when I'm hearing rhetoric that sounds like it is politically expedient towards the goal of winning an election. And yes, that is expediency. Making sure that your party enfranchises enough people to where it can win elections, that is a good thing. Now, it's not good for me. If you guys just created the most exclusive party possible and then you were not able to get anybody on board, that would be good for me, because then you wouldn't have any power anymore. But speaking from one side of the aisle here, if I need to.
John was sort of laughing during that, and so why are you laughing?
I was humored by the biblical substantiation for having more gay people in government. I just thought that was kind of funny. But no, I don't think that, like, even you push back on what I had said about the pandering with, well, Trump appointed these people and he appointed these people, so he was actually, like, you know, serving the interests of the community. It's interesting because, as you noted, the left will still ignore that because they control the narratives and they control the media. And so really, no matter...
Ah, yes, the left, they control the media. Fox News doesn't exist. The left, the media is all communist, socialist. That's why it's all controlled by corporate interests. Yep. Fucking dipshit of the week here, John Doyle.
Matter what Trump does to pander to that, however many percent of the, 3% of the voting demographic isn't actually going to serve interests. And I just don't think that the reason Trump didn't win in 2020, assuming the election was totally legitimate, was because he didn't serve the interests of the LGBT community enough.
Nobody said that, you dipshit. Nobody said it was because he didn't serve the needs of the LGBTQ community enough. In fact, very few people here have talked about the reasons why Trump lost, except for you, to a small extent, and Lauren up there. Lauren did that as well.
I mean, Trump won in 2016 because of immigration, because of free trade, and because of foreign policy. It wasn't at all because of social issues as it pertains to, like, you know, the interests of gays and transgenders or what have you. And then as far as the biblical substantiation for it, I mean, it's outlined, obviously, and not only in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, like, very clearly that sexual immorality, which under the umbrella would be homosexuality, is wrong. But you seem to be alluding to this idea of, like, the individual and their...
Okay, so, John, can I get biblical with you for a second here? Yes and no. The Bible, if you take certain interpretations of it, yes, does talk about sexual immorality and being bad, okay? If we're talking about Leviticus, there's like 6 different translations you can get from there. Yada, yada, yada. I've gone over it in other videos. What I want to point out, though, is that what Carolyn was talking about here was that you, as an individual with a party, you have a party on Earth. And the Bible, the verse she was using, was trying to argue that while you were on Earth, you know, with your Republican Party that exists on Earth, you do kind of have to comport to Earth's rules. And as we find that there are more gay people, more trans people, etc., you're going to have to deal with the fact that they are voters. You can argue about the immorality. You can grab another verse and go, you said that the Bible said that we need to work secularly within government. But did you know that gay bad and the Bible said gay bad? Aha! I won. No, that doesn't automatically mean you fucking won. If you want to contradict a verse in the Bible, it's easy. You just look in the Bible and find another verse. If you want to contradict a Christian, you don't even have to ask another Christian from a different denomination. You can ask a different Christian from the same church, and they will have different interpretations of that book. I just wanted to speak on that.
Private home and things like that, when you talk about, you know, people living in a free society to do what they want and not, you know, causing any problems. But what's interesting about that is that was the argument that during the movements in the 1960s and 70s, including the sexual revolution, that allowed a lot of the stuff to have a seat at the table, which ultimately would usurp power away from traditional Americans and traditional social conservatives. And I just think that that's basically a myth, because there's really no such thing as a private individual in the privacy of their own home, because you are one person. And so any actions that you take in your house are ultimately going to reflect you and how you conduct yourself in the real world. And then it's also kind of misleading, because people don't want to be confided in the privacy of their own home or what have you, because that almost presupposes that it's something to be ashamed of. And people don't like that. And so what happens is then they start taking to the streets and they start having parades and they start to infiltrate education. They start to infiltrate institutions such as the American Psychiatry Association.
She's just rolling her eyes at this right now.
June of 2015, the Supreme Court decided that 5 minutes ago, marriage can be between two men, and now we're here on the back foot with issues like, hey, maybe kids shouldn't be taking prenatal hormones. Or
can we jump into that?
Elijah, I want to jump in there, because sure. John just fundamentally misrepresented something I said, because I specifically chose 1 Timothy 2 verse 1 and 2 because it has nothing to do with homosexuality. That's why I specifically chose that passage. It has to do with the relationships Christians have with their government. Now, if we want to talk about how the Bible deals with homosexuality, what I would like to focus on is the fact that there are multiple different arguments for different interpretations of the Bible. I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I do know that there are multiple different interpretations for that. And instead of getting into the nitty-gritty about what it says in that area, I want to focus on the fact that, again, this is an argument for the First Amendment, for religion to not be the dictator of a political movement. If you want to talk about these issues in your church, do talk about them in your church. If you want to exclude people from your church, fine. If you want to exclude gays from getting married in your church, that is a conversation between you and your church elders. This is a conversation about a political movement.
I think that all the arguments against the acceptance of homosexuality within the right are completely secular. It may just
they're not.
To the base.
No, they are not, John. And you're a fucking idiot if you truly believe that.
Base of that movement as Christians, but I think that Lauren and I could recite several arguments that are maybe even more compelling from a completely secular perspective.
Let me.
And I hope.
Yeah, and you could probably do it the same way Mike Winger did, and it wouldn't be compelling. It would be fucking stupid.
You'll do it in church.
Let me jump in.
And I think it's really funny that she's quoting scripture as a liberal, thinking
she's quoting scripture as a liberal. Oh my God.
That she can use it against us as Christians. It's like, oh, it doesn't apply to me, but maybe it'll work on you. And guess what? It doesn't work. Playing on our Christian compassion and making us be tolerant and acceptive of all this diversity. You know what that's left us with? Transgender pedophiles on Twitter saying that your daughter asked for it. Your little girl isn't actually a princess. She asked for it when I abused her.
What? Who?
That is where we're at. So you're throwing.
Where does that happen?
Liberal is not going to work.
That is a fucking genetic fallacy. It doesn't matter that she's a liberal handing you arguments from scripture. The arguments from scripture exist whether they were presented by a liberal or presented by a... You seem to also have this issue that liberals can't be Christians? That seems to be the end result here. I'm just going to go and say this right now. Blaire, Karen, you guys, these are your allies. Okay, Carolyn and Blaire White. These are your allies. These are the people you are going to bat for when you vote Republican. These are your people. These are your people. Lord Spongy says it gets worse. Spongy, do you have a timestamp? There is 50 minutes of this, and we've been at this for 44. We've been at this for a while. I need a timestamp. Because I cannot handle more of this.
You cannot play the Christian compassion card on us anymore.
She didn't ask you to be a compassionate Christian. She asked you to be a pragmatic Christian. She asked you to work within the confines of what the United States government and the United States population has, because this is a world on earth, not in heaven.
We are taking a stand for social conservatism because it matters. Social issues matter, and using God's word and manipulating it to try to get Christians to agree with you is absolutely subversive. And
no, it's not subversive. It's the literal fucking shit you do all the time. The conservative Christian bent is taking the Bible and manipulating it to support literally any horrible thing you would like, be it anti-LGBT, be it slavery, be it what have you, be it beating your children. There is always some way to contort the Bible to do that. She's not doing anything subversive here at all.
And that's what we're struggling with in our party is subverters. You know, how many kids saw Blaire White, giving one of her videos? I know Trump is a cash cow. I know people love to talk about him to get their popularity, but how many children saw her and looked at her and said, you know what, she looks really good. I could do that too, and started transitioning. This is about the children.
I guarantee you that if that was the case, the child was likely already trans, and it was merely the fact that Blaire is an attractive trans woman that led them go, oh, I might be able to pass. That was likely what went through their head. Whether or not, if they did transition, whether or not they would be pretty. Apparently the timestamp is at 40 minutes. We're going to go to 40 minutes. And we're going to see what's... Oh, that is a face.
Am I going to be forced to participate in your fetish or delusion while our children are being targeted for pedophilia openly, So
who's targeting children for pedophilia openly? Like, okay, there is a single person I can think of who did this. A single person. And I don't remember their name because they were that unimportant after the videos were made on them. But Blaire did a video on that person when they showed out to be a predator, so, more power to Blaire, at least in that particular case.
So, no, I don't want to give a platform to that lifestyle, and those are your people.
Here's the thing. There is...
Go ahead, Blaire, sorry.
Okay, there is... And I think this maybe is something that you might not be aware of, or people who are not, closer to the LGBT community, knowing the inner workings, that there's actually a huge divide from people who...
It doesn't matter. It's a package deal. It all comes together.
Wait, she just pointed out that there is a divide in the LGBTQ community where people do not think the same, and then Lauren here is just like, no, it doesn't matter. It's all a monolith. If you accept one LGBT thing, you must accept it all, including transitioning your child. Oh my God.
I disagree. I think that there's a huge divide within the community as from people who do support things like Drag Queen Story Hour, one of the things I've been very vocal against children transitioning. So I don't think it's a monolith. I don't think any group is a monolith. The same way that the right wing is not a monolith of just people who believe, in a biblical, definition of conservatism and people who don't. And I think that there's a really big missed opportunity for the right in the sense that I think LGBT
Jessica Yaniv, thank you. Jessica Yaniv was the predator.
people are actually the best warriors against gender ideology. And and seeing children being read to by half-naked drag queens and children going under hormone therapy at 12. I think that people that are from that community coming and speaking out against it do a lot better of a job at trying to stop it than people who are on the outside. Because at the end of the day, Lauren, you could make it part of your platform to be against those things, and even Carlin, you guys could talk about it, but it's simply
Carlin, sorry. I've been mispronouncing her name the entire time. I am sorry.
the way it works. It's never going to be heard as loud as someone like myself or a gay person coming out of the community. And so I think that when you have, I would venture to say, the majority of LGBT people who disagree with those things, when they feel like they can't speak out against it, because what happens is the right will say, okay, you can speak out against it, but you still get no voice in the party, you're still disgusting, you're still a freak. They don't want to, then they end up staying on the left, and it makes it appear as though all of us agree with those things, but in reality, oftentimes we feel politically homeless, like we don't have a voice over here, and we have to...
That's not a bug. That's a feature. Conservatism's feature is disenfranchising minorities. Blaire?
pretend to be leftists or pretend to be along with these things because we don't have a political home.
Well,
so again, I think,
well,
so I just want to, one second, just one last thing. So again, I think just in general, the overall point of what I think is that you don't benefit from turning people off from voting for you. You just don't.
okay, well, listen, here's the deal. Your whole lifestyle really opens the door to everything that you claim to stand against. Now, I'm not really sure if you really stand against the transitioning of children or drag queen story hour, or if it's just
I
public
made it very
opinion
clear
is
that I
against you.
have.
Or
I
if
made it
public
very-
or if public opinion is against you, because public opinion matters. You know, I don't really know what's really in your heart, but when you walk out a lifestyle
But you're making a lot of assumptions about it.
that introduces that to children, I mean, it's there. It is your people. It is part of, you know, that's part of the package deal. It is spearheaded by the LGBTQ movement. Just because you take a normal stance on something, everybody should be opposed to grown.
A normal stance. Look, I'm just gonna go and say it right now. Saying something's normal does not predicate it being good or bad. That just means that that is what everybody is used to at the time. For the record, though, puberty blockers are a good medical option. Just throwing that out there. Probably going to disagree with literally everybody on that debate panel.
Grown men going into young girls' locker rooms or bathrooms. You know, that doesn't make you special. It makes you normal. You know, and just because
Blaire didn't try to say she was special. Holy shit, you dumb bimbo.
you dress up as a woman does not mean that you have a special opinion on something that everybody should oppose.
Okay, so
I'm not claiming to be special.
Exactly! Blaire didn't say she was special! Oh my god! Fuck!
I'm just a person that shares my opinions online. And what I'm just trying to tell you is that it's a lot more people than you think within the community, the LGBT community, that agree with me and think the exact same way, not the exact same way, but on the more radical ideas like children, everything to do with children.
It's all the
And
same.
I mean, you can sit here and you can insist that it's a monolith and insist that we all think that way and that it is a package deal, but it's really not, especially considering gender ideology and how it has manifested now and taken over culture and been popularized. It started it started well after the existence and acknowledgement of gay people or transgender people. Transgenderism used to be a purely medical issue that was treated on a purely medical basis. Gender ideology that we see on college campuses and that oftentimes it's communists spreading it, that came much, much later. So I think that they are two separate things.
okay, so let me I have to move the conversation on because I know that Blaire again has a hard out, and so I kind of want to give Carlin and John a chance to respond.
Yeah, no, we're not going to give a chance to respond. We've been at this for 53 minutes. I think we've heard enough here. And you know what? I'm just going to say it right now. We have a Nazi Barbie. We have John, who's just an authoritarian fascist here. We have Carlin, who I'm not a fan of either. And we've got Blaire, who I've done videos on, and I'm not a fan of at all. I don't like anybody in this debate. But I think the takeaway from everything that we've seen in this debate so far is that at this stage, Carlin and Blaire have a choice. They can either look at this and realize that, oh shit, this is my political party, and realize that maybe that political party is not good for them. It doesn't want them in it. At least these two vocal speakers from within the party don't. Or they're going to continue trying to change it from within. Now, will the Republican Party be a better place with or without these people? I don't know, nor do I care. If the entire thing just imploded tomorrow, I'd be incredibly happy. That's where I would be. I want to feel bad. I want to. I want to feel bad for Blaire. I want to feel bad for Carlin. Because if I had to sit here and watch this smug-ass expression whenever I delivered a valid point, I would wake up that day and choose violence. I would not be a happy camper. On the other hand, this is very much a product of you made your bed and you laid in it. Blaire has been Republican this entire time, so she knows exactly what the party stands for. She knows what it is, and she still goes to bat for it. Carlin seems to do a lot of research, even when she comes out on the wrong side of things. And it seems to me that she also knows what she's getting into here, and this is just like with Dave Rubin, this is the kind of abuse that they're going to have to deal with if that's the area they want to be in. And I think it's just sad to watch, personally. But, what do you think? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. This has been a long one. This has been a headache and a half. And I'm not a big fan of it. But as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.